Half-Life 2 is arguably one of the most influential PC games of all time. It came out over 20 years ago, and I guarantee you've never seen it like this. This is Half-Life 2 RTX, a community-driven mod created using NVIDIA's RTX Remix technology. So in this video, I want to check out the demo for the very first time, kind of see what's different compared to the original, and then later I'm going to talk to one of the developers of this mod to actually see what the process was like to bring this to life. But before we jump into the world of Half-Life 2 RTX, I do want to mention that this video is sponsored by NVIDIA. And what that means is that they wanted me to be sure to check out this demo in video form, but they did not tell me what to say, and all opinions are my own. So I'm sitting here on a 5070 equipped Falcon Northwest system. I'm going to run through the demo here, but I'm not alone. Luckily, I have some help. I have Niall here from NVIDIA to show me around, because if you want to do this at home, you could just go download the demo right now. It's on Steam, it's free, and you can run it if you own Half-Life 2, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's free for any Half-Life 2 owner to play.
Okay, perfect. And there is developer options that can kind of go in here and like change things so you can see what's going on. So yeah, why don't we start at this area right here? What are we looking at?
Yeah, so this is an area of Ravenholm. I think it looks so beautiful. You know, it's very faithful to the original. The team behind this is a community mod team called Orbifold Studios, and they've remade every asset by hand. The entire lighting system has been replaced with path trace lighting, the most advanced lighting model available in gaming today. And there's a ton of neural rendering technology to make it perform well, like DLSS4 and a neural shader called Neural Radiance Cache. And I think when you look at this, the results speak for themselves. There's so much detail, there's nice specular highlights and reflections on the alleyway, assets look way better. We can kind of dig into some of that if you'd like.
Let's dig in, yeah. I'm rolling the ship here. But what are we looking at? Because we got
I want to first point out how
almost too much.
Yeah, I want to point out how the path trace lighting looks so different. So take a look on the left. You can see in the original game here, there's no actual illumination or light contribution from the fire. But in this path traced version, you can see that fire brings a warm heat to all of the bricks.
Yeah, all the way up the wall, the actual like vines going up the wall.
Yeah, we should take a look at the vines.
Yeah.
So we can hit Z to zoom in.
Okay.
And we can look, and in the original you can see it's actually a flat texture. It's not even...
Oh, there's not actual vines there.
Yeah, there's no 3D model at all. It's the illusion of a vine. I'll get up right close to it, you can see this. It's literally just a low-res texture that's been, it's a decal that's been put on to represent that.
Okay.
And here, what the team has done is they have modeled everything with geometry and physically accurate materials and 4K resolution textures. And these leaves actually, light doesn't just bounce off of them, it passes through them. The thinner leaves will be highlighted underneath. It's really nice attention to detail.
Yeah, you've got like a warm, like a real bright glow here, and then it kind of warms up as it goes up.
Exactly, and even the brick wall, like if you zoom in on the brick wall here, you can see over here, it's really just a flat, muddy texture. It's hard to see in the darkness. I'll turn on the flashlight, you can see. But over in Half-Life 2 RTX, you can see that these bricks actually jut out. You know, they have geometry, they have material properties, and they look incredible.
Well, not only that, even when I do the flashlight, like the flashlight's casting its own shadow as well.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing shadows here, even though we're still seeing shadows and light from the fire.
Yeah, it looks awesome. So here we have a propane tank, right? And in the original game, you can see there's no stickers, there's no labels. You can still tell it's a propane tank. I think Valve had really good art design. But now with the modern era, all of those jagged edges are now smoothed over. It looks like a real object. If you hit Z and zoom into the label here, you can see that now these assets are in such high fidelity, you can actually make out text, and the artist actually had to like pull out schematics and study real propane tanks.
I was about to say, I was like, did they make
right.
stuff up? Is this lorem ipsum? No, it says, do not allow children to tamper or play with the cylinder.
Exactly.
It's probably a good idea.
It's a good idea. And I think another really amazing call out, and I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to turn on no clip, which is a dev console command. So now if you hold W and you fly forward, you'll be moving really slow.
The people at home can bring up no clip.
Yeah,
but it's in the developer menu.
That's an old Valve cheat code. You can just Google no clip. But yeah, I was going to show exactly what you were about to show there. Because it's path tracing, look at the gauge on the left. And now look at the gauge on the right, complete with glass that with the path tracing
So
reflects.
we're seeing the actual fire here.
Exactly, and you're seeing all of that high detail. It looks amazing.
So listen, can we set something on fire, because like we're just looking at it, but I want to burn something.
Absolutely, let's do it. So let's go in here in the house to the left.
Okay.
And you can see we've got a little buddy here.
Yeah. What's
He's
up,
ready
dude?
to burn.
Oh yes, I remember this
So
part.
I'm going to turn on the propane tank. He's getting up. He hears it.
Uh huh.
And when I turn it on, we can see some light.
I can also hear it in my mind. The.
Yeah. He's burning alive, and you
Okay.
see a little bit of light.
Yeah, a
but
little bit kind of flicker on the propane tank.
Yeah, it's a nice effect that they achieved
Yeah.
with baked lighting. But it's obviously not physically based. Let's see what it looks like in Half-Life 2 RTX.
Okay. I hope he still yells the same way. Oh.
Oh, and get close to it. I also want to show you in the gun. You can see in the glass the fire reflecting.
Oh yeah! Wow.
And you can see now it's illuminating the whole room.
Yeah.
It's completely different. Let's take a look at some of these assets on this table.
Okay.
I love what they've done with the health packs here. I think it serves like a gameplay purpose, that even in the dark, you can see where you need to go to get health.
Yeah.
The way those assets have like a little light, a blue light, a green light, and it bounces softly on the extinguisher. And the table itself is so much more detailed.
Just didn't exist over 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely not. And you can zoom in here, there's like no detail. You zoom in over there, and man, you can really get close to these objects and see so much vision, so much artistic vision behind these assets.
Well, and there's multiple lights here. It's not just the big blue canister here. We got little lights around here,
Yep.
there, down here.
Yeah, we have our path tracer has algorithms that can handle millions of lights without having a performance impact. So you can have all of these tiny lights and all of these little details in a remix mod, and it can look incredible.
Well, that is a good point. So we're playing on a Falcon Northwest system here with a 5070. It's showing the FPS counter here, 155 frames per second. But what's the settings and the internal resolution?
So we
and stuff?
are maxed out graphical quality at 1440p.
Okay.
We've got multi-frame generation on and neural radiance cache on, and we're getting 150 frames per second, which I think this is one of the heavier areas of the entire demo. And I think this is a very good experience. You're maxing out your refresh rate on your monitor, and it feels really good to play. It's a reasonable latency level for this kind of an experience.
Do you know what the base frame rate would be without multi-frame gen?
Yeah, so we can check that out. So why don't we turn around to this corner, and we can start to toggle. Actually, let's go at it from this angle, where you can kind of see the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
And we can mess around with some of these settings.
Yeah,
So
tell me what to do.
Yes, you can hit Alt-X to open the developer menu.
Okay.
And this is the graphical menu that everyone sees. So if you click on General, we can toggle off DLSS. So if we hit Enable to Custom, let's first start by turning off frame generation. So we can turn off frame gen.
Okay.
And without frame generation, with just super resolution, you're getting 47 frames per second.
Okay.
And then if you were to turn off DLSS, which you can hit to none, you can see that it's playing at something like 20 or less than 20 frames per second. And this is because this is path tracing. This is state-of-the-art graphics. This is technology that people thought was a decade or 2 decades away. But thanks to the advances in neural rendering, we can actually play this in real time. So why don't we, it's gone even under 10 frames per second. Let's put back DLSS.
Okay. Yeah, so you recommend people need upscaling to
You
check
absolutely
this
should
out.
play path-traced games with DLSS on.
Got it.
And I think frame generation adds a lot in terms of adding that necessary smoothness to the gameplay experience.
Okay, nice.
And so let's enable frame generation on as well.
Okay.
And I want to show you a new technology that we've got here. So why don't we, you can go back into that Alt-X menu.
Sorry. Yep.
And we actually have these advanced developer settings where you can toggle on many features.
Oh, uh-oh. You're going to have to help lead through here because I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no problem. So here you have neural radiance cache, and it's a AI approach towards calculating indirect light. Basically, every ray gets bounced only 2 to 3 times before we terminate, and then we use AI to infer a multitude of bounces after that.
Got it, got
so
it.
we're tracing less rays, and we're able to get better performance, and we're going to get better accuracy because the AI is much better at calculating indirect light.
Got it,
So
okay.
let's turn it off first to show you what it looked like without it. So that's how you do that. Yeah.
Reester GI.
And you can see now it's much darker up here. And we can toggle it back to show it again. And here there's more indirect light here.
Okay.
And this is actually more accurate. You can see this if you hit Alt-X,
Okay.
and if you look behind you, you can see there's a strong light there.
Yeah.
And if you look back at the ceiling, you can see it's open and there's a bunch of holes in it. So you actually want, that light should be bouncing up there more reliably, and this is a much more accurate way of it looking than when it was in shadow. And I want to point out the performance impact too. So if you go back up there,
Okay.
and let's hit Alt-X, and let's try again here. Let's turn it off and let's see the FPS. So it's going to drop here to like 132, 135. It's bouncing around that area. And then let's put on Neural Radiance Cache and give it a second here. And now performance is closer to, somewhere closer to 155. So we've gone up like 10 frames and we've got better image quality. We love technology that kind of improves everything.
Yeah. Well, that almost seems too good to be true. So
Yeah.
what are you missing?
No,
with
there's
it?
no trade-off.
No?
The AI is just simply better at calculating indirect light. So this is a net gain here.
Oh.
But I want to show you the volumetrics here. So
And explain volumetrics again real
sure.
quick.
So volumetrics is basically the interplay between fog and light.
Okay.
So you have this volume of fog or smoke or these types of or mist or these types of gases in the air. Light doesn't just kind of treat that stuff normally. Light illuminates it, it reflects off of it, it refracts through it, and it can create some very intense effects. So over here in the old game, this is kind of an example of a faked volumetric effect. You can see that there's like a fake beam of light casting through. That would imply that there's some fog or some dust or something.
Yeah.
It's getting illuminated and it's contrasting with the environment in the old game. So to create that same effect, with RTX Remix, we've created RTX Volumetrics. It's a new volumetric system for much higher contrast, more sophisticated volumetrics. So if we hit Alt-X again, and we go into the developer menu,
Okay.
I can show you what our old volumetric system used to look like. You can
Okay.
hit low here,
Low.
and you can hit Alt-X and you can look at it. So, in the old volumetric system, you had fog and you had light interplaying with it.
Yeah, but it didn't really like shine through like points of light.
Yeah, it's very thin. You don't have these like defined sharp beams, right? And so if we back up to that same vantage point, and we can set the volumetrics to insane.
Insane.
Yeah, which is right there. Yep, click it, and then hit Alt-X again, let it settle. And now we get those really nice defined beams of light.
Yeah.
And it looks really, really nice. And you're going to see the smoke. It's going to kind of circulate and rotate back into shape, and it's going to catch the light, and it looks really strong and really beautiful. You're getting also this light.
Yeah, I was about to say
casting through.
not just from the balcony, but yeah, this little floodlight over here.
And it's a beautiful effect we love to see. Like, It looks really good.
So earlier we were talking about the vines, but you were also talking about like subsurface scattering, like being able to see through the leaves.
Yeah.
All right, so we're looking at the characters now, and it looks like subsurface scattering is off.
Yeah, that's correct. So subsurface scattering is a technique where, typically when we trace rays and we hit and we make contact with surfaces,
Okay.
we bounce off, we reflect, and we cast a shadow ray, right? So you're either in shadow or you're in light, and there's a
it.
different intensity.
Okay, and then that's what we're seeing here.
That's what we're seeing here, right? His back of his head has a very strong light, a blaring light.
But there's an
the front is-
obvious line where the shadow starts.
Right. And then what subsurface scattering tries to do is it tries to emulate what happens. Like if I were to take your hand and if I were to light a flashlight through your hand,
Okay.
you would look at the other side and you'd see the glow of the flashlight. You'd see like pink highlights in your hand.
Got it.
And so what subsurface scattering does is it tries to simulate light propagating and transmitting through like thin surfaces.
Okay.
And so let's see what it looks like.
Yeah,
when we
what does
turn
that
it
look
on.
like?
So let's open the developer menu.
Okay.
And on the right, let's expand subsurface scattering. It's that option right there.
Got it.
And let's hit enable diffusion profile subsurface scattering. And now we've got subsurface scattering on. So we
Wow.
can fly around and see it from different angles.
I mean, I see it mostly in the ear here.
Exactly, because the ear is very thin, And the artist has kind of put on a subsurface scattering map to show that, hey, the ear is quite thin and should have more permeation of light through it.
Interesting. I'm seeing a little bit on his bald head as well.
Yep, it does come through. It will smooth out
Okay.
faces and the head. If he was turned sideways, we'd see it through his nose, maybe.
Well, I've definitely seen it through the head crab here.
Yeah. Let's go up to that head crab. And you can also see it on the other side of him if you want. But yeah, let's go up to this head crab. And you can see now there's light going through the hind leg and also the front arm of the head crab.
That looks nasty.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. And what's really cool about subsurface scattering is we can actually turn this effect up. We can make it more intense. So we give a lot of tools to modders to kind of play with it. So that's scale right there.
Okay.
Yep. You can drag it to the right till you're at like 40 or 50. Oh, you maxed it out.
I maxed it out, all right.
So yeah, max it out, that's fine. Let's hit Alt-X, let's look at it. And so, when you turn from this angle, now you can actually see through it. It's almost like it's glowing.
And you can almost see his head, the shadow of his head in there.
Yeah, you can. And you can see all of that, all of the tendrils, like basically the light passing. You can see the veins underneath the skin.
Okay, I kind of don't like that. I'm going to turn that down
Yeah,
again.
let's turn it down.
So we got one last spot to look at. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so I think this really goes to show how it all comes together, how it's very faithful to the original. But now, you've got these bricks that displace, they bump out, they protrude versus they're flat in the original. They have physically accurate material properties, so you see the moonlight kind of glint and color it blue. On the brick wall there on the right, you can see the contrast between the fire transmitting energy through it and also the moonlight on the top half.
In the depth of the bricks, yeah.
The depth,
yeah. Even over here on the left, you can kind of see the peeling paint. It has almost like a depth to it as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, with the soft lighting. And I just think this kind of represents what's so beautiful about this remake. It's so true to the original, but it's got a lot new here so that when you play it, it's the Half-Life 2 you remember.
Yeah. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you for walking me through the dev tools, because once again, you can just go download it right now and use those same development tools to kind of turn it on and off, play with it, see what you think. But I still have more questions, so thank you, Niall, but I'm going to go talk to one of the devs kind of more about the philosophy of like what it took to remake this. All right, so now I'm here with David. Hi, David.
Hey,
and you are one of the lead developers at Orbifold Studios, right?
That's right.
All right, so tell me about the studio. Tell me about your place in the studio. What do you do there?
Sure, so Orbifold Studios is a collection of originally 4 mod teams from around the Half-Life 2 modding community.
Okay.
Came together, all 4 of them working on various remasters, one called Raising the Bar Redux, Half-Life 2 VR, Half-Life 2 remade assets, and Project 17.
Okay.
All of these projects kind of targeting remakes of Half-Life 2, its assets, higher fidelity basically. And so the idea came together once Portal RTX was released and RTX Remix was available for use a bit more. What if these groups got together, targeted something like Half-Life 2, worked with a company like NVIDIA to make it happen?
And how many people total?
Currently, I think we're around 150. That's people in every department, from 3D hard surface to 3D organics. We've got source engine experts for particles, programming, mapping. We've got sound engineers even to look at things like trailers and even some game sound effects. Really, every base we can touch, we've touched it.
All right, so and what is your role at the studio?
Sure, so I'm the lead developer, and that means mostly administration, team management, that kind of thing. But I'm also kind of the RTX Remix expert. I've been using the tool for a long time, and so all the assets you see in-game, I put them into the game, given the assets by an artist outside. I guess the role in industry would be called like a technical artist. And from there, I take the assets, put them in the game, work out if there's any translation issues, anything like that, clean them up, get them sorted.
Okay, nice. And so I guess my first overall question is, what would make you and your team want to take on one of the most beloved games in PC gaming history? Because a lot of people like still hold it in high regard and probably are not like, oh, don't touch that. You don't need to touch that. It's still good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, as a starting point, right, it's like we're not trying to replace the original, right? It's a timeless classic, and for what it's worth, it's a great time capsule of like cutting edge tech at the time, visually, right? That's partly why a remaster and remix makes so much sense, because remix is itself a cutting edge technology visually, right? It's got so much stuff in there that's just bleeding edge. And it's great to be able to compare that, you know, like 20 years later, like where has the field of graphics technology moved, right?
So, and just to clear up some confusion real quick, you don't work for Valve, right?
No, I don't work for Valve.
Okay, and what is your relationship with Valve? Have they given their blessing to?
Well, to be honest, they're just kind of letting us do it. We're a mod like any other. We're a high class mod, I guess. We've got a big team, everything like that, right? We hit for a very particular visual standard, but at the end of the day, we're just fans of Half-Life 2. And Valve are letting us do it, which is very nice of them.
Okay.
Just the only other thing is they're letting us use some Half-Life Alyx assets, which is real nice as well.
Oh, wow, okay. And here's the other question. Do you work for NVIDIA? What is your relationship with NVIDIA?
So that's a really storied history. I started engaging with NVIDIA as a modder, right?
Okay.
I was working for the site ModDB at the time as a community manager and editor, right? And ModDB is one of the oldest, longest running modding sites on the internet.
I've even heard of it, yeah.
And NVIDIA engaged with them as a press outlet, right? To talk about the initial release of RTX Remix. I'm not really a press guy by default, I guess. Because I'm a modder, I was interested in how does the tool work, what kind of mods could I make with this? And so the questions I was asking were very technical questions. So there was a follow-up conversation that kind of said something like, hey, are you a developer? And they said yes. And from there, it kind of turned into, I had a lot of conversations. Initially, I was brought on to help do some consulting on what is modding, how is the best way to access it, that kind of thing. We knew that RTX Remix could be a superb addition to the modding community's toolset, but we needed to know more about like how to engage those people, what are they looking for out of a toolset like this, what are the big victories for RTX Remix already, what are the other ones we could get. And then, you know, I worked on Portal Prelude RTX. That was kind of a follow-up to Portal RTX. That was really to kind of indicate, could a very small team accelerated by NVIDIA produce a project? That was me and one other guy, pretty much, a couple of other artists who joined us at the very end. And yeah, that absolutely worked. And then the question became, well, what's bigger, right? And of course, there's not much bigger than Half-Life 2.
Yeah, right.
And so we figured, well, why not just dive right in there into the deepest end possible?
Yeah, so there's a demo that just came out today as of we're recording this. Seems like a lot of people have downloaded it, so congratulations on that.
Thanks.
But this is, tell me, this is just Ravenholm? Like what?
So
what
just
can people
Ravenholm and
expect?
Nova Prospect right now.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
okay.
Ravenholm was a really obvious choice because very physically simulated. It was the playground in Half-Life 2, and that's why we picked it here. Nova Prospect is another great example because it's one of the tightest gameplay sections, and the thing that was really important for us with this demo was we wanted to be able to show, you know, the strengths of path tracing with Ravenholm and all the dynamic stuff going on. But we also kind of wanted to prove it works in context and in gameplay, right? But you can be having high-paced gameplay, it's all path traced, the particle effects are going everywhere, the lighting's going everywhere, and it still holds up pretty well. The illusion doesn't break, right? And I think we managed that with these two sides of the demo.
Okay, and like, you plan to do the whole game, right?
That's the idea.
Okay, can you give me a timetable, like a hint of when you think the whole thing's going to be
Well,
done?
we'd like to be done before Half-Life 3 comes out. That would be pretty good.
That might be easy.
Yeah, that might be easy. I think that's pretty doable. I mean, look, like, as a starting point, right, we examine areas in the game that were pretty strong. I mean, our first trailer was of Kleiner's Lab, right? Kleiner's Lab isn't in this demo, right? And there are other places we've looked at across the whole game before we arrived at Ravenholm and Nova Prospect as the key places for a demo. We evaluated a lot of places, right? We have a big team covering a lot of areas of the game, right? I don't want to give you a specific number, but I feel pretty good about where we're headed and where we are right now.
Okay, all right. And so, yeah, you mentioned Ravenholm specifically. I think a lot of people who have looked at it remember that as being like very creepy, spooky. You know, you get the fire simulation stuff, you get the head crabs and all that kind of stuff. And so, like, I think it evokes a lot of memories out of people, right? Like, so what was it like to then be like, okay, well, we know how people feel about it in its current iteration. What can we do to enhance that? How do you sit down and make those choices?
Well, I mean, some of them are kind of things which naturally follow once you move into a physically based model, right? Like the fires in Half-Life 2 don't actually give off all that much light. right? Once we put fires into RTX, they really should give off quite a lot of light.
Yeah.
And so that was like one of the initial guiding principles. You have all this fire in Ravenholm, there's a lot more orange going on, right? That itself casts some very interesting shadows in places where it necessarily didn't before. And from there, you can kind of look at the, the lighting in Ravenholm is already very stark. Loads of great glancing angles, which PBR and path tracing love, that kind of thing, right? And we kind of just wanted to find ways to accentuate what was already there, right? Add the, make sure that the lights are still very stark and casting these great long shadows, right? Look into how is the fire affecting the environment, that kind of thing. And then, the rest is kind of gameplay alterations as well that came up, like, light effects on particles from weapons, right? That kind of thing has an effect on the lighting, on the mood, and that sort of thing. And there's still some very cool areas where it's like you're in a dark room being chased by zombies. There's no illumination apart from your muzzle flash occasionally lighting up the zombies' faces as they're coming towards you, right? You've got some great visuals like that, which were only possible because of what we're doing here.
Okay, and you feel like having path tracing in here is what makes it possible? Like, do you think you could have done this without path tracing and all that kind of stuff?
I think it's possible, but there's a lot of things that path tracing brings to the table in terms of just being so accurate all the time, right? The sharpness of shadows, the degree to which the angles on assets are accurate, right? In Half-Life 2, a lot of the shadows are basically just kind of drop shadows. They don't even necessarily point the direction that they should because of the light sometimes. They sometimes point counter to the direction of the light when they really shouldn't, right? And this kind of real-time lighting model is like, in path tracing, you get an accuracy that you just couldn't get otherwise, right? And especially in Ravenholm, where the sharpness of the shadows and the accuracy of the interactions of the environment is so important, path tracing really brings an edge I don't think would be possible otherwise.
Okay. Well, yeah, you mentioned that, like, you started off with the base game. Like, did you add lighting? Did you have to, like, take out some lighting? Like, did you add fog? What did you know what to add or to take out?
Well, I mean, the starting point, right, is when you put in the remix runtime, it interprets the lights from the base game.
Okay.
And so you can kind of get almost like a proof of concept.
Oh, okay. So it's the original lightings, but now in path tracing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So you kind of get that as a starting point. You can kind of see how do some areas already look.
Okay.
Right? RTX Remix then adds a bunch of more complicated lighting types, things like cylinder lights, which the original game didn't have. The original game basically had spotlights, which point in a particular direction, or point lights, which cast light in every direction.
Got it.
Remix has more advanced lighting models like cylinder lights, which are more useful for, say, fluorescent tubing, right? And so you get a more accurate lighting model that way. And so, we kind of start from the base level lighting. We work out where is it differing from the game, because there is obviously translation differences once you move into a path tracing model. From there, we make those edits, and then we look at, well, where does the original game lighting not match up with a realistic example? Then you use the RTX Remix lighting to accelerate it further.
Okay.
And from there, yeah, you get the results you do. I mean, we also have things like emissives, for instance, right? So Half-Life 2, emissives are basically textures that give off light, right? So they are not a light themselves, it's just kind of glowing textures. So I'm talking like the red on the SMG site here, right?
Oh, okay.
That kind of thing gives off light. And the original game didn't have that, it just basically had unlit pixels, so they were always fully lit all the time, regardless of circumstance, but they don't give off light. So emissives can be really great for setting mood themselves. The fire is actually done with emissives because the textures now give off light, right? But this is also how the muzzle flashes work. But then also we have things in the environment like the spotlight bulb gives off light, as well as there being a light in front of it that produces the rest of the spotlight. And in Half-Life 2, that wasn't the case, right? And it's that kind of physically based interaction which can again affect the lighting model in ways you wouldn't expect, and we then have to correct for a little bit, but in other ways we can lean into to produce a more interesting result.
Okay. I mean, I've definitely seen some people say that they feel like it's overlit, like too bright. Like how do you balance that? How do you say, actually, you know what? Like, we need to go in and change that.
Yeah, well, I mean, like as a basis, right, with the fire, right? The fire was always going to be a challenging one because fire should be bright. It should give off loads
Very
of light,
bright,
right?
yeah.
And Half-Life 2 gives off none. So anywhere where there's fire, in our version of Ravenholm, it's going to be a little bit different.
Got it,
yeah. Beyond that, we kind of, we have to balance like what makes sense within a physically based environment and within an environment that's meant to be very high fidelity, right, very real. And, from there, where do we interpret the original game lighting? It's kind of that line, right, of like, what was artistically intended by Valve? And what did they do because the technology wasn't there, right? And what sacrifices did they make, right?
Got it.
Can we picture how they might have made an area look if they had the option. And if we can achieve that, then it may end up looking a bit different. But I think we can get there. But of course, modding is an organic, evolving process, right? All mods are constantly changing beasts that respond to public feedback and, you know, how your vision evolves over time. And with the feedback we've gotten from the public, you know, it's like, yeah, maybe in some places we've overtuned the lights a bit. You know, maybe we've accentuated the spotlights just a bit too much for shadows and that kind of thing, and maybe you gain a little bit by pulling it back, right? This is the kind of dialogue we want with the community, right? Because like I say, we're just a mod, right? A very cool mod, you know, with lots of people behind it who love this game, right? But we have that room to maneuver to go, hey, the community thinks this overwhelmingly. Why don't we try to see if we can find another way to do it?
Okay, and how do people like express feedback? You know, what is the best way?
Well, Steam reviews is one way. You know, there's also, we've actually made a new forum on our Steam discussion specifically for technical feedback and that kind of thing. We figured it would be useful to try and localize it all, otherwise it's all over the place.
Right.
You know, comments on YouTube or making YouTube videos, really any other method you would just use to express yourself. We are looking at it all because we care about this product, right?
Okay.
You know, we care about how the end result comes together. We care about it as a mod, as fans of Half-Life. So anytime anyone makes anything, we're hoovering it up, you know?
So a couple more questions, I'll let you out of here. Let's talk about the technical aspects of it. The demo here is running on a 5070, but you don't need a 5070. I saw on the Steam page the minimum spec is like a 3060 Ti. Do you feel like people can get a good experience on a range of hardware? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we worked really hard, particularly with this release of Remix, right? Like this release of Remix that we've just done is the most optimized release we've ever done, right? We did it specifically so that this demo could be accessed by as wide a group of people as possible, right? So, you know, obviously your experience improves as you go up the stack. We think the 30 FPS 1080p story on 3060 Ti is acceptable and, you know, a pretty decent way to experience this game, especially again with comparative to the original. You know, there's just all the effects you're still going to have. And then as you move up the stack, it's going to get better, I think.
Okay, all right. Is there, if people go download it, try it out, play it, is there anything you want people to like look at specifically that when they're playing or keep in their mind?
To be honest, I think the thing to keep in mind is that like every asset was lovingly handcrafted, right? There are artists who spent tens of hours looking up documentation, technical manuals, right? References for these assets so that they could be the realist versions that they can possibly achieve, right? There's a tremendous amount of human passion that's behind this project, right? And I hope it comes through. Every time you see an asset and you look at it, I hope you think of the person who made it and go, that person loves what they do.
Nice, awesome. Well, this is my first time getting my hands on it, but I'm actually excited to go home and download it on my own system to check it out. So yeah, I can't wait to see. Thank you for chatting with me and good luck for getting the full game out.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be out before Half-Life 3. So
hopefully, we would
easy.
hope, right?
You got
Thanks
time.
for having me, Adam.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Very much.